Why, I may be Craig Winn, and this may be the YAHOWAH blog. When it comes to the best seat in the house, that belongs to Wookie, who is here with Leah for another episode of Chakmah Choter, brought to you by the
sweet and adorable Wookie.
The adorable Wookie. Oh my. We have lots of people who are now envious of you, Wook. Including me, pal. Well, back to reality. When it comes to advice from God, that he is especially offering to his people, he wants to encourage them to listen to his cold voice and that of his sons, Bashar Herald, because he wants them to respond appropriately to his Nakri, his observant foreigner. And in this pursuit, there is one prophet who stands head and shoulders above the rest. Mm-hmm. Who is it that wrote the textbook on proper chotering? Wookie, do you know the answer to that?
He does. Yes, yeah. Yes, that would be Yeshaya.
That's what he said, was Yeshaya. That is the correct answer.
Wookie has a question, though. Do you find that even though Yahweh says for Yahudim, Israel, to listen to the coal voice of the Nakar, who is lifting up this neck, this banner for all to see, in the name of Yahweh and the King of Israel, Dode. Do you find that they listen to you?
That there's a what?
Do you find that they listen to you?
Oh, of course not. But that is very close, except for the fact that it is Yahweh who is committed to lifting up the Nesh sign.
Yes.
Not his Choter. And that the voice that is calling out is doing so from the wilderness, particularly that is infected with Arabs, according to the prophecy that Yahweh prescribes, and that his mission in this regard, as the voice of Yahweh, is to clear away all of the obstacles between his people and his home.
There were many.
And so our job as the one calling out in the wilderness is to make clear and to raise this walkway from man's world to God's. That way that Wookie can follow along with us, because there's going to be a wonderful path, a Wookie trail that will go from our world to God's. So it's true. These words were inspired by Yeshaya, who did write the textbook on proper chotering, how to serve as the choter and how to support him, even how to respond to him. He reports, "For this is what Yahweh says, be observant and consider the means to exercise good judgment and to justly resolve disputes. Then engage, acting upon that which is correct and vindicating, because indeed my deliverance and salvation are approaching. Therefore, the one who is correct about me, the Tzedakah, he will come, such that he will be revealed." Yeshaya, Isaiah 56:1. Leah smiled because she also is aware of this. Because Yahweh is speaking directly through a prophet named Yahweh Saves. Yasha, Yah, means salvation is from Yahweh. And it also means Yahweh delivers. And so he said, this is what Yahweh said to him. Be observant. Pay attention, Israel. Be observant, Yehudim. And rather than get all hot and bothered by misfot, instead, pay attention to Yahweh's mishpat. Mishpat is a compound word, as are so many in Hebrew. It's a compound of two Hebrew words. My is the first of them. That is an interrogatory. It means to ponder the implications of something, and it is followed by shafat. You know what shafat means in Hebrew?
Yes.
What?
To be judicious, to be moral, to be logical, reasonable, to weigh the evidence of, to think thoughtfully of what is moral, what is right.
Right. Means to judge, which is to decide. The best translation of it is to ponder the implications of exercising good judgment. To be reasonable, to be rational, to be observant of the evidence so that you can process that evidence in a manner that renders a valid decision, is what God is saying. A valid decision regarding what? What evidence, and what are we to make a good decision about? Well, the evidence would be the Torah and prophets of Yahweh. He was writing in around 700 BCE, and at that time, virtually all the prophets had been revealed, with the exception of Hosea, Yirmiah, Yoel, Zechariah, and Malachi. So it would have been the Torah prophets, the Mizmor also of Dod, the Mashal of Dod, would all be included in those things that you could observe. And then be judicious, be prepared to exercise good judgment. Then act, engage, Ashah, do something. Don't just believe it's just an absolute waste of time. Engage.
I think that goes back to one of the biggest questions you used to say a long time ago. Love is not a word, it's an action.
Absolutely. So then engage, acting upon tzedakah, that which is correct and vindicating, the one who is right, the one who is acquitting. Because indeed, my deliverance and resulting salvation are approaching. Who does Yahweh constantly say is right? Tzedakah?
Dod.
And so he wants you to act and engage based upon the one who is correct and vindicating. That would be Dod, because he's the one who correctly ascertained that it would be appropriate for him to volunteer to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. And not only did he do so, he wrote nearly 100 Psalms regarding exactly what he would endure and explained why he had made this decision. And if you do, God says, my deliverance and resulting salvation are approaching. They're near. And they're from Karuba, someone close to you, in an intimate, personal relationship with you. Who is the most Yehud of all Yehud?
Dod.
And so the one delivering salvation, the one who Yahweh repeatedly says is Sadak, is right, that you need to act upon. If you want to receive Yahweh's salvation, his deliverance is Dod.
I'll go one even further. At the end of it, when the Adama Parah, the bloody red man of the earth, will give his life for the remnant of the people. He's a man of Edom. Esau is Jacob's twin brother.
Yep.
Their
so
family.
He's reconciling the relationship. Long ago broken.
Yep.
Therefore, when the one who is correct about me, Sadaka Ani, well, he's going to come, it says. He will come, such that he will be revealed. So when this was written in approximately 700 BCE, it was possible for Dod to come, because he would come again in 33 CE, year 4000. Yeah. Was he revealed, though, at that time?
No.
Dod revealed
not.
what was going to happen 300 years before this was written, and he did what he said he was going to do 700 years after this was written, and when he did it, no one noticed.
Nope.
All right. In fact, no one noticed until a few years ago.
No.
When the one who was correct about Yahweh, how to pronounce his name, what he is offering through the covenant, what he expects in return, what is being delivered by the 7 Moed Mikre when they were fulfilled, when God is going to fulfill the remainder of them, by whom, why, where, when. The first person to be correct about God wrote a series of books called
Yada Yahowah.
To Know About Yahweh. We're having a discussion now. Therefore, the one who is correct about me, Yahweh speaking in first person, will come, such that he will be revealed, Galah.
Mm-hmm.
He will be made known. He will be disclosed. He will be seen. For this to be fulfilled, as it is right now, Yahweh had to change our working relationship, because I had worked exceedingly hard not to be seen. I started off anonymously, not even revealing my name. I was simply Yada, not knowing that that would be the name that Yahweh would not only choose for me, but use as the title of the books that I had written, Yada Yahowah. But I was anonymous and I was unseen. I would not even allow a picture of myself to be shown under any circumstance.
Nope. And what's worse, I can vouch for this, he's a very talkative guy who's an extrovert and can talk to anyone. So that's not an easy task.
Yeah. So Yahweh, about 6-7 months ago now, said, I think we've done all that needs to be done as it relates to this writing of books. One more book, the marginal utility of one more book is not particularly significant when you already got 35 on the shelf. So what we're going to do now is you're going to talk to my people. And he said, you're going to do a vlog. You're going to get cameras and lights and microphones, and you're going to be revealed. It's time for me to reveal you to my people.
Da-dum-dum.
And here we are. And here we are.
Time to face the lions, darling.
So that you can be disclosed and seen. Now, I want to tell you that there are lots of people who have really pathetic little lives, typically, who want to be famous.
Yeah. That's not us.
And that's not me.
It's
there are
us.
those also
No.
who have done things with their lives, who have stood up and been noticed and accomplished something in their lives, and like taken several companies public, and been the first to have written a comprehensive essay on Islam to prove that Islam was a terrorist dogma, and receive thousands of death threats as a result of it. And what you realize is that being known is a terrible curse. You want to enjoy your life. You want to be anonymous.
Yep.
That's why I chose to live in a place where, gosh, my home was so far from the street. There's like 5 miles of driveway to get to it. And then when I moved, because no one wanted to be around my ex, and I had a home in California, I bought one in hedgerow country. The hedgerows were because everybody wanted their privacy. And after all of that, we moved to an island Well, you want to be
Nobody?
be
Come
a
to the
nobody and be
Caribbean.
unseen. This is how you do it. You
Oh,
move
yeah.
to an island.
Yeah.
But then Yahweh said, nope, we get the lights, turn on the cameras. You're going to be seen.
Time to face the lions.
Yeah, time to face the lions, quite literally. Well, I guess it's been God's plan all along. It is plainly and persistently presented by him. For those who are shamar, observant, and mishvat, who exercise good judgment, there is an opportunity to ashah, to act upon that which is, and he who is, tzedakah, vindicating and right. You can capitalize upon what David has done in his fulfillment of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, and live forever, be perfected, and be adopted into God's covenant family. All of this is available to you. And at this time, if you also accept the terms and conditions of the covenant, you will find yourself as a participant in the Shabuah harvest. So this is Yahweh's means to Yeshua, to deliver on his promises, to liberate us from our guilt, and therefore to present this message that has long been forgotten. God has promised to provide a tzedakah, someone who is right about him. And when he arrives, the truth will be galah, revealed. Promise made, promise kept. And
that's for sure.
Here we are. Now, if not now, when? If not Yada, who? If not through Yada Yahowah, where? Has anyone previously offered even 1/1000th of 1% of the revelations, insights, and understanding found within the 25,000 pages of Yada Yahowah, or in the now many, many thousands of hours of audio and video programming? I mean, think of it for a moment. Just in the books alone, you see some examples of them behind me. There's 25,000 pages. They are amplified translations, which use a very unique style that has never heretofore been used previously, that enable them to be more readily verified and understood, and that expand our understanding of the words that God chose. And then there's commentary that helps you understand the context of all of this, and even the derivation of the definitions of those words, all leading to the exercise of Bayan. So we go from that yada, knowing, to Bayan, making the connections between what God said in a particular case and what he has said elsewhere. For example, when I tell you that the person that Yahweh says is Sadak is Dod, I'm making a connection that helps you understand who he's talking about, how he's going to deliver salvation, because I'm making the connection between what Dod said and how he wrote about his fulfillment of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, and how Yahweh called him Sadak, so that you would know. Because it's one thing for me just to sit here and read the prophecy. These prophecies have been available for 2,700 years. It's just no one has understood them. You can't act upon them if you don't know what they say.
Oh, well, can I give you the Jewish perspective here? Why are we not listening? Why do we not understand what's going on? Why is the woman on a cliff in a red dress about to hurl herself over? That's because we are told, Jewish people are told, that the Sadiq among us are the rabbis. And now, probably don't know this about me, but before I met you and before I understood certain things, do you know how many books of the Talmud I've read? How many volumes I went and bought in their really expensive bougie stores with black hats, and they're every bit as thick as yours. 5 volumes. Cover to cover, I read it all. Do you know what I learned?
What?
I learned that it's no better than academic books that professors put together for 10 years so they can seem important. What did I get from it? I thought I was going to get an education. I thought I was going to get understanding about the Torah. I thought I was going to figure out who the Ruach Kodesh is. I didn't get any of that. I got confused. I got gaslit into their stupid little mental gymnastics. And you walk away feeling more confused than you did walking in.
Because of
But they're supposed to be Sadiq.
One of the advantages of being involved in social media is that you are exposed to people that you would not otherwise hear from. And on my feed into the our Facebook page at Craig Winn's, there are a number of rabbis that whose posts are presented on my feed. And it's probably because I use the term rabbi to denounce them. It's probably because I speak negatively of the Talmud and I speak of the Torah and they mention Torah. And so I get their feeds.
Yeah.
I got one today where rabbis were referring to themselves as Baal. As Lords.
Perfect.
Now, of course, according to Yahowah, and it's obvious, a Baal, a Lord, is a false god modeled after Satan. So they're acknowledging that they're false gods modeled after Satan. They're Baal. And in one today, they were talking about how lovely Miriam was and how wrong Moshe was. and you read this and you say,
they can't get
how is it possible that somebody could read Numbers 11 and Numbers 12 and come to promote the antithesis of what God actually said? And they were talking about Sadak. They said that the rabbis are the ones that are Sadak because they can explain this to you. And you read it, and it is exactly the opposite message that Yahowah delivered. Why they wallow in the glory of being lords.
Oh, I'll tell you. The rabbi that I went to visit in his office, he was definitely lording it over me, trying to stick his hand up my skirt. Now, I'll tell you something. These creeps have no more knowledge than they do brains. No. And it ain't saying much.
No.
They pretend to know a whole lot, and yet they're the most ignorant and irrational people I've ever met.
All they know.
And anyone that I've ever met, they're all share one string across the board. They're all neurotic.
And they know is what other rabbis
have told
said.
them.
Yeah.
They worship dead rabbis.
They worship and study dead rabbis.
Yep.
I mean, I can tell you overwhelmingly
and say that
I understand the Torah infinitely better than the whole gaggle of them.
That's for sure.
And certainly know God better than all of them combined throughout history.
They won't even say his name.
In fact, I think I know them better than they know themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
So anyway, the one who is right about God is David, whom they...
The one who is Sadak.
Yeah.
Because the rabbis are not.
No.
Not Sadak.
What all matters is what God says about us. And what God says about David is that he is Sadak. But regarding this one who would come, who would be revealed, who is right about God, Tzedakah, well, you're looking at him. And when you're reading something in Yasha'yah, you have to understand that a huge percentage of Yasha'yah is focused on one of three things. It's focused on how much God hates Judaism.
Oh, yeah.
That's better part of the first 10 chapters.
For sure.
How much God is positioning on the responsibility and enabling an individual that is presented as the Choter. And the 11th chapter is completely devoted to him. And then you find out all of these other titles that are used to describe him. And it becomes the most important theme of the book is what Yahowah is going to do through this individual. It's called the man from Edom. He is the Adam of Parah. He is the Choter. He is the Nakar. He is the coal voice of Yah. He is the mouth of God, of Yah. He is the final Zeroah. He is.
Yasha goes, that's my guy.
Yeah, he's Yada.
I said, no, he's mine, but okay.
Yeah. So
I'll share.
that is this most important theme of the book. And then the third theme is that we need to have an appreciation for who Dod is and what he has done. Isaiah 9 is this child who was born, a son who was given to us, and that he is a great Gabor. That's about Dod. Mm-hmm. When you read about the lamb upon whom our guilt has been placed in the 53rd chapter, that's all about Dod. But it's even introduced by saying, you're not going to understand this unless you're listening to the one who came to acknowledge the identity of the three Zeroah.
And reveal it to you.
Yeah.
Because there is no Jesus. There's no Allah's coming to save.
So we're right back to, if not Yada, who? Yeah. If not through Yada Yahowah, when? Then where? If not now, 11 months from the beginning of the time of Yaakov's trouble into the next Mikra that will be a Mikra in the singular, Moed Mikra, that will be fulfilled, Shabuah, then when? There is no one who has previously offered even one tiny fraction of 1% of the relevant revelations, insights, understanding that are found in these pages and programs. And I was going to say, if in 25,000 pages, it would be fair to say that there are at least 5,000 profoundly important insights that were never previously acknowledged or even perceived, much less shared, prior to the writing of these books.
And that would be a low estimate.
Yeah, it's a stunning thing that, 99.999999% of people go through life and they never have a single profound insight about God, particularly that's accurate, that can be validated. And yet I'm able to prove and share at least 5,000, maybe 10,000. Just an entirely different level of collaboration than has ever occurred previously. Well, therefore, blessed by the benefits of the relationship, Ashri. Ashri is a combination of Ani, which would be my, and Asher, which is the benefits of the relationship. It's the way to get the greatest satisfaction out of life. It happens to be based on the first word that I translated. It happened to be in my favorite prophecy of all time, 2 Samuel 7. It is the first word that our king wrote, Ashri. And so here again, bien, let's make the connections to understand why this is written this way. Blessed by the benefits of my relationship, joyous and productive, by way of being on the correct path of mine, Ashri. Is the person, Enosh, is the mortal man, an otherwise ordinary individual who acts upon and engages based upon this. Of course, this was translated from 1QISA, which is the great Isaiah scroll. Because children of humankind, by observing the Shabbat, by closely examining and carefully considering the Shabbat, the seventh day of promise, and by not defiling and profaning it, not making it common, without treating it with contempt, he is empowered and strengthened, enlightened and restored by it. And by being observant, his hands, from again 1QISA, Dead Sea Scrolls, Great Isaiah Scroll, are kept from acting upon or engaging in anything that is unjust, immoral, or irrational. Yahowah delivers Isaiah 56:2. Yes, Wookie has his hours. He does a program up to a point, and then he must rest. There's only so much Wookiness that he can give at any
He has a
time.
cuddling quotient.
Yeah, Wookie has a cuddling quotient. Well, it's not right now. He's literally laying on top of my feet.
Yeah.
So blessed by the benefits of my relationship. So here we are. We're going from recognizing that David is the Tzedakah, the one who is right about God, through whom Yahweh is delivering salvation, to him telling us that there will be a person who is right about God that will be revealed and made known to you if you are observant, to him saying that you will be blessed by the benefits of my God's relationship, even as a mortal man, if you act upon and engage in this. Now, why do you think that he would use Enosh? Enosh is very seldom used in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms to describe man. I mean, the number one word for man in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms is probably Ish, and male individual. Isha being female individual. The second most would be Adam. Someone who is a derivative of or an offspring of the first man with an Asama conscience would be the second most. You have to go way down the list before you would find an Enosh. An Enosh. And Enosh is a mortal man. So why is he talking about the benefits to the relationship for a mortal man who acts upon and engages based upon the revelation of this individual who is right about God?
Because he's asking mortal man to observe this man.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. The remnant of Yisrael, who is returned to Jerusalem by Yahweh on the Shabuah, on the Shabat of September 24th of 2033 for the sacrifice of the red heifer on Towrah, are all mortal, as well as all of those who have gathered around the Temple Mount, particularly sitting on the slopes of the Mount of Olives so they can observe the festivities and the sacrifice of the red heifer as it's orchestrated by Elia. They're all mortal. It is a mortal remnant. And so the message here, if you want to benefit from the relationship and you haven't already availed yourself of the Shabuah harvest or the Teruah ingathering, then you need to pay attention and act upon the sacrifice of the red heifer if you're still mortal. And therefore, as a mortal remnant of Yisrael, you are invited to participate in the cleansing of the adulterous woman so that you can be betrothed to the returning king, Dod, and enter Sukkah into a restored Garden of Eden 15 days thereafter.
Last chance for romance.
That is the last chance for romance. And that is precisely what is.
And love is an action.
Because children of humankind, now this is now Adam, by being observant, by observing the Shabbat, the promise of 7. Now, why would observing the promise of 7 have value to you if you're either part of this mortal remnant or you're one of those who is being asked to be observant so that you recognize the appearance of the one who is right about Yahweh? Why a reference now to observing the 7th day of promise? Because
that's where all the fun begins.
Well, it is true that the Shabuah harvest is on a Shabbat. It is true that the Teruah Lakat gleaning is on a Shabbat. It is true that the sacrifice of the red heifer is on a Shabbat.
Also.
And it is true that the gates to Eden, where we get to pitch our tents and camp out with Yahowah for 1,000 years,
Guess what?
commences on a
Shabbat.
Shabbat. That's all true.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the point.
Okay.
No. God is saying you want to pay attention to this one who is right about him and his arrival. And remember I said at the end of it, if not now, when? Well, the reason I said that is because if you understand Yahweh's promise of 7, then what you're going to do is you're going to realize that it was 6,000 years ago, minus now just 99 months, that Adam and Chakmah, according to the genealogies in the Torah, were escorted out of Eden.
For being
And that
rebellious,
it was 40 Yobel from that time that Abraham and Yishak climbed Mount Moriah, where Yahweh provided the lamb as the dress rehearsal for Passover, so that we might be allowed back in.
Very true.
That occurred in 1968 BCE, year 2000. Yeah. And if you're paying attention, you'll know that a 40 Yobel thereafter, on exactly the same place, not so coincidentally, Mount Moriah.
How strange.
That the very Son of God, who the whole discussion between Abraham and Ishak was about your only son,
Yeah.
the son that you love, your only son whom you love. What does Dod's name mean?
Beloved.
Who does Yahweh say is his Bakor, firstborn son?
In Mizmor 89, Yahweh says, if not Dod, then I'm a liar.
Correct.
So
then
I'm gonna trust him.
Yahweh, right out of the pages of the Torah, and what happened in 1968 BCE, delivers the Passover lamb as his very son, his only son whom he loves. 33 CE, exactly 40 Yobel from the time of Abraham and Yishak on Mount Moriah.
yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah.
So what is 40 Yobel from 33 CE?
2033.
2033. So
And I'm not even that great
would
at
that
math.
not be your 6,000 Yah?
Yeah.
So-
According to the rabbis, it's
So
not.
is the 7th day a time of celebration of our relationship with Yahweh? So if that's your 6,000 Yah and the 7th day is to celebrate our relationship with Yahweh, when would we enter the restored Garden of Eden, be back into the Garden of Eden so that we can celebrate 1,000 years?
Gee whiz, I think that might be on the 7th day.
Yeah, so would be we'd expect Yahweh and Dod to return in your 6,000 Yah so we can spend the next 1,000 years as the Shabbat of Sukkah
As family.
back in the garden.
Yeah.
So,
But the rabbis would have you.
So
yeah.
if the next Moed Mikre to be fulfilled is also called Shabuah, sevenths, and you've just been told to observe the 7th day and the promise of 7, wouldn't you expect that this individual is going to be available for you to observe and to witness in conjunction with the fulfillment of Shabuah?
Yes, I think it's also encouraging people. It was said earlier to capitalize on Shabuah. And the reason for that is very simple. You want to choose now sooner than later. What is coming after this harvest is not going to be fun. It is not going to be pretty. It is going to be very dark. If you think the world is dark now, honey, you've seen nothing yet.
You know, we have now Netanyahu and Trump being two men who seem as if both are demon possessed, both literally sacrificing Israel for their own self-aggrandizement. And they are committed now and have announced that there will be a terrorist state carved out of the heart of Israel and making Israel indefensible. And just as the prophet Yeshaya Isaiah said would occur in advance of this Shabuah, 7's harvest. And we enter the 7-year period, Shabbat again, of the time of Israel's troubles that commences on Shabuah, 7 years before we enter the 7th millennia of Yahowah.
If I may. Yehuda, why aren't the rabbis telling you about this? Why aren't their mouths going off about what is coming, what is right around the corner? Because they can't get the years right. You're going to get caught without your pants on.
Yep. You know how many years they're off by?
A couple hundred?
197, pretty close. 197 years they're off by. You know why they're off by 197 years?
Yes, because Maimonides was in love with the Islamic notion of the number 19.
Yes, which is the magic number in Islam. And when he, what is the symbol of Islam?
The crescent moon.
What did he, in the chapter where he wrote about his magic number 19, which is how he deduced the numbering system.
The chapter of the moon.
It was called the sanctification of the moon. Thank you very much. And you're still fooled by it. You're not bright enough, people, to know that the rabbis have fed you nothing but rubbish.
Do you know how many polymaths we have among our people? Science and math degree. How we can't figure this? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you can't figure it out.
Again, it's leading Israel down a path where she's caught naked
what I think,
out in the wide open.
What I think part of the problem is, rabbis tell everyone. Well, they tell even the women who are part of their Haredim Ukrainian cult of the Baal Shem Tov, the demonic lord of the good name, as they would say. Well, the good name is Yahweh. It's not Baal. The Baal is Satan. But they tell women you have no right and no business to study their Talmud because you're too stupid. That's what they say.
Lay down and make
so
babies.
that's half the population of Israel is precluded from study. Then you have the dunderheads, which would be the parasites, the Haredim themselves, and they don't even bother to study anything but what the rabbis wrote. And if the rabbi wrote it, it's true. Therefore, even though there is no justification of any kind for Maimonides' stating system, they parrot it because he came up with it.
Yep.
Now, the next problem is that in Israeli culture, you're told by these moronic rabbis that the study of the Torah is their business, and that you aren't qualified to do it.
It's their mafia.
That is their private domain, and only they can read it and interpret it. And so all you have that are actually studying this to try to figure it out are the rabbis, and the rabbis don't want to figure it out. They want to perpetuate the scam that is rabbinic Judaism because it's very, very profitable to them. It gives them their prestige, their power, their control, and their wealth. That's the story. The rabbis are the greatest enemy of the Jewish people ever.
Without us, honey, they don't drive Mercedes.
Disgusting. So because the children of humankind, of Adam, by observing the number 7 and the promise of 7, and by not profaning this, not making it common. What is the most common thing in human society?
Goddamn religion.
Religion. What is the most common thing in Israeli society?
Goddamn religion.
Religion. And so God's saying, don't make my Shabbat religious. Don't make it common.
Oh, nobody does it better.
No one makes religion more common than do Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And by not defiling it, he is empowered, he's strengthened, he is enlightened, and he is restored. Shazak, he prevails, he's established, he's invigorated, he is enabled by the realization of that you can act upon the one who is right about God. And by being observant, his hands are kept from acting upon or engaging in anything unjust, immoral, or irrational. And that is the advantage of benefiting from Yahweh's Torah teaching as opposed to wallowing in the New Testament or the Talmud or the Quran, is if you study Yahweh's Torah and prophets, you will be properly guided.
I was just sitting here thinking,
that, we're always stuck in this quagmire because we say that we love life, right? Everybody knows it's our Achilles heel. Hamas banked on it. Really, they're still banking on it. How if we are so in love with dead rabbis that that's all that we look to, do we claim that we love life? It's a paradox I don't understand. It's irrational, it's illogical, and it's flatly untrue.
Do the rabbis in rabbinic
You don't love life, you love death.
Right. Do the rabbis in rabbinic Judaism have any plan for a life after this one?
No.
They don't. Do the rabbis in rabbinic Judaism have a plan for how to deal with the dead rabbis?
No.
Yeah, they do. Exonerate them, worship them,
Yeah.
go to campfires around them, go to pilgrimages where they were
circumnavigate their
where
graves.
they were buried. Their whole religion revolves around celebrating dead rabbis,
Yes.
but yet they have no plan for life after this one.
No. Well, they don't know God. They don't know his name. They don't know his plan. I quite frankly think they don't really care. That they only care about the words of their dead people.
That's the whole scheme. They promote the words of dead rabbis. And if they do a good job of promoting the words of dead rabbis, then they can be a dead rabbi when they die, and their words will be esteemed too. That is their highest calling.
And they'll have people come and dance on their grave
on their grave too. That's their highest calling.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So they do. They worship the dead. They talk about the dead, and yet they scream out to the world that they love life. I say you lie. Liars.
Okay, you heard the lioness of Yahud call the rabbis liars. Since the benefits are for all mankind, this message cannot be from a rabbi, a priest, or an imam, because they focus exclusively on either Jews or Gentiles. And since these results are attributed to those who act upon what can be learned, this message of salvation cannot be delivered by a religious person who would encourage faith.
Ugh.
And then, excluding the rabbis, the priests, and the imams again, not only is the Shabbat prioritized not so much as a day to do nothing, but as a marker of time and as a promise. Shabbat means to promise, and Shabbat is 7. It's the promise of 7. But it's not Sunday or Friday, and that would eliminate Christianity and Islam, and Judaism is eliminated because they're paralyzed.
They're parasites or paralyzed?
Paralyzed.
Oh, yeah.
The parasites are paralyzed on the Shabbat. So it can't be them, and it can't be the Christians, and it can't be the Muslims. So it's a time when uncommon observation and contemplation leads to enlightenment and restoration. That would be an active use of the day. It would be active use of the 7th day too, wouldn't it?
You can't do that when you're laying flat, now can you?
No, you really can't. The instruction is to engage actively in the promise of 7, such that one does not become counterproductive. Has anyone other than Yada expressed these thoughts previously? That Shabbat is a verb? That Shabbat is based upon the promise of 7?
No, look at it. If I were to listen to my people, I wouldn't be able to step outside my door, turn on a light, open a stove, go in an elevator, drive a car.
You couldn't
You're
brush your
a
teeth.
prisoner. No, you are a prisoner.
Yeah.
Trapped exactly where they want you, laying down flat, because they are the Lord of your thoughts.
Yeah.
So
you couldn't brush your own teeth. You can't wipe your own bottom. You got nothing. It is the most repulsive, paralyzing day ever imagined. And they've made it so common in Israel that they force everybody to go along with their scheme, profaning it by making it common. Now, continuing to speak of this exceptional Goy, we are not only reminded that he is an observant foreigner who is God's authorized designee, but also that he would be unwise to suggest that Yahweh has abandoned him so as to toss the baton to another, because God doesn't do that. Learned that quite clearly. By the way, as we did this morning, and we're going to do again on a future Chakmah Choter program, but as we did earlier today when we were studying Devarim 18, one of the things that came across boldly, this was also in yesterday's program as well, is that when Yahweh chooses to speak through someone, he tells you that he is going to speak for them. There are copious and bold, irrefutable pronouncements that this individual has been chosen by God, equipped by God, and is authorized by God to speak for him. Now, do you know how many authorizations are given in the Torah and prophets regarding rabbis?
0.
How many authorizations are given in the Torah and prophets regarding a Jesus?
0.
How many authorizations are there in the Torah and prophets regarding a Mr. Christ?
No.
0. How many authorizations in the Torah and prophets are there for Paul?
Oh, he calls him the son of evil.
How about Peter, Mark, Luke?
No.
Are they anyone in the mention?
No.
And how about Muhammad?
Good God, no.
How about Rabbi Akiba?
Hell no.
How about Maimonides?
Hell.
So you can't speak for God unless God specifically announces that you are authorized to speak for him. That's what it says in Devarim 18.
Okay, yes, but that never stopped the Yehud.
Well,
Then along came Paul with
I'm
Isaiah, or Muhammad with Al-Khalil, or Akiba with whatever.
You're sort of missing the point there. God says that people will do that.
Yes.
But if they speak and they're pretending that they speak for God, and there is no direct edict from God that says, this person I have chosen, I have enabled, and I have authorized to speak for me, if that does not exist in his Torah, prophets, or Psalms, then that person is deadly.
You should walk away.
Yeah, that person is deadly. So there are so many hundreds, I think it's got to be north of 1,000
at least
designations of the role and this collaboration that Yahweh has asked me to engage in, just as he used tzedakah in this particular case, pursuant to what we would do together.
Yeah.
So here is the next statement. It says, do not say. And what I'm going to read here was really difficult for me to deal with. This was probably just a couple of weeks ago that I ran into this. But I'm going to read it, and then we can discuss what it means. Now, he's speaking of this one who is going to be revealed, who you need to not only observe, but act upon what he says.
Actively engage in what he's...
So he's speaking of the Choter of the 11th chapter.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're not following along.
It says, do not say to this son, the Nakar, the observant and responsive foreigner. Do not say, do not claim, this is also from 1Q ISA, to this son, the man who is the child of the father, the Nakar, the observant and responsive foreigner. Ha-Nakar. It's written here as a title. It is Ha-Nakar.
Nakar.
The Nakar.
Yeah.
The one who pays attention and is observant from Nakar, one who knows and understands through thoughtful examination, who recognizes and acknowledged, and who is discerning and respectful, as well as responsive, who has joined with Yahweh, having connected himself to Yah by forming such a close relationship that he is actually accompanied by Yahweh. Ha-La'ah El Yahweh, who has joined forces with Yahweh, who is in collaboration with Yahweh, who is attached and bound to Yahweh, engaged in a very close personal relationship, and therefore united with Yahweh. In the Niphal stem, he receives and conveys the benefits of being directly associated with Yahweh.
Okay.
In the Niphal stem, he receives and conveys the benefits of being directly associated with Yahweh in the perfect conjugation, completely and totally at this time. Third person, masculine, singular. There's one of him,
Yeah.
and he's a dude.
Yeah.
Something which would infer or suggest that I, Yahweh, would, under some circumstance, dismiss or separate from, would even consider abandoning the relationship so as to be withdrawn from being over his family and near his home.
So that's like a whole lot of words for saying you guys are like joined at the hip.
Yeah. And let no unproductive or impotent individual as a castrated representative of an emasculated group say, look and perceive now, I'm a dried up and withered tree.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Okay. Well,
There's a lot to unpack there.
That's our favorite line. There's a lot to unpack there. All right. So after introducing all of this, Yahweh is saying that they're reminding us through Yeshayah that there's a Nakar. The Nakar was, to my knowledge, first introduced, and this role that we're collaborating on was actually introduced in Bereshith Genesis 1, the first opening chapter of the Torah, as the lesser luminary to the greater luminary regarding the Moed. But in terms of this title was used in a first person, a variation of it, which is Nakri. Same word, but with meaning my observant foreigner and responsive individual from a different race,
it's
from a
possessive,
different place.
It's claiming you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's like my Nakri.
Yes. And
like
that was introduced in exactly 7 years in advance of our past year 3000 Yah. And year 3000 Yah is 4 years after Dod's first life concluded, and the cornerstone of the house for Yahweh's name, called the First Temple, was laid in year 3000 Yah, 968 BCE, and 7 years thereafter, Solomon stood up and gave the commencement address to all Yisrael, and it was on do you know what day of the year it was on?
Well,
what day of the year was that commencement address given?
That would be Shabuah.
No.
Towrah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's the.
But before you go on,
yes,
he was dedicating a house
to Yahweh's name,
built to Yahweh's name.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. It was the Beth Shem Yahweh, Beth Shem Yahweh, the house of Yahweh's name, and he introduced in that speech on Towrah, which is the day of the herald, the Nakri.
Yes.
And he said that this person is going to appear. He's going to be a Zeroah, that he's going to reintroduce Yahweh's name, that he is going to proclaim the importance of Dod, Solomon's father, and the work that he had achieved. Exactly what we have done. And that his voice will be coming out of the sky. We go up to the satellite and come back down to Earth for you to see on Facebook, X, YouTube, or wherever else you may be watching this program. And that when he speaks to you, you need to listen and you need to do exactly what he says. This is the presentation of an introduction of the Nakri. Yeshayah, of course, knows that. This is written 3 centuries after that speech. And he is now introducing the Nakar again. And he is saying that this observant and responsive foreigner may be a foreigner in the sense that he is the man from Edom. He is not a Jew, because, of course, there were no Jews willing to listen to Yahweh. He made abundantly clear and Yeshayah that Yahweh looked, there wasn't a single Yehud willing to listen to him and respond to him. So he went to a Goy. Now, it's not just that Yahweh went to a Goy because of that reason. Yahweh's a great storyteller, and all great storytellers come full circle in their story.
Yes, they
And
do.
so we
A
start
good
we start
storyteller.
we
Yeah.
start out in Eden. We return to Eden. All of the initial characters, they're all goy. Every initial character in God's story is a goy, and so he ends his story by picking a goy to conclude the story that he started with goy about his family, and it is the goy then is responsible for the family reunion. So, but he says of this observant and responsive foreigner that he is not estranged from Yahweh. He's God's son. He is a Ben. He's God's son. He's just like Dode in the sense of he's God's son too.
Yes. So
He
we can no longer say that Dode is the only son.
Well, Dode is, Yahweh introduces Dode as a Bakor, his firstborn son.
Firstborn, yes.
Dode is the only person that Yahweh explicitly says, Dode is my son, I am his father. That makes Dode the son of God. But Dode fulfilled Pesach and Matzah for Bakurim, which is firstborn children. So there are other children that are part of God's family.
Right.
And here we're being told explicitly that the Nakar, observant and responsive foreigner, is a son of God.
Yes.
And this is God speaking. So when he says this son, he ain't talking about, being the son of Matilda and Francis down the street.
Absolutely not.
He's talking about being his son.
And what does Yahweh say
and
about
says,
that?
don't say to his son. So he's now warning his people. He's warning the world.
I know.
That he's already told you what the benefits are. If you listen to him, you're going to have the benefits of the relationship. This is a really good thing. And you're going to enjoy the seventh day if you listen to him. Now he's saying, but if you don't listen to him, then at the very least, don't speak out against him. Because if you speak out against him, that's going to be really bad. And let me explain to you. This is God speaking now. He says, so do not say under any condition to this son, the Nakri, the observant and responsive foreigner. This man who, and this is a powerful term, Ha-Lawah El Yahowah. Ha again makes it a title. He is the one who has joined with Yahweh. He is the one who has connected himself with Yah. He is the one that's in such a close relationship with Yah. That relationship is unseverable. That he and Yahweh are joined in forces. They're in collaboration with one another.
Joined at the hip.
We are. It is an explanation of what Yeshayah wrote in the 11th chapter. What spirit does the Choter receive first of the seven spirits?
Chakmah.
Nope.
No, Yahweh's
Yahweh's
Absolutely.
Oh, Yahweh's
We have Rich, the captain of the cables over here with the correct answer. It is Yahweh's spirit. The spirit of Yahweh. So this person, this Nakar, who is the Choter, is imbued with the spirit of Yahweh. Now, if you're have the spirit of Yahweh inside of you, you are inseparable from Yahweh.
Right.
You're as close to being the mouth of Yahweh, the voice of Yahweh, the luminary of Yahweh, the witness of Yahweh, indeed the Nabi of Yahweh, as you could possibly be. And that's what's being said here. Yahweh is saying, we're joined.
So before
We're
you
in
go on,
collaboration.
yeah, before you go on, it says, "Do not say to yourselves that the Nakar."
Is not joined with Yahweh.
Right. Okay. So I have some bad news.
Yes.
I'd like to read this to you, if I may. This is the Chabad's official statement on the Nakar.
Mm-hmm.
The phrase Nakar, Chabad, refers to a specific individual. Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who was the last Rebbe, spiritual leader of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. Nakar is a Hebrew word meaning to uproot or to remove, and it is used in this context as a reference to those who opposed Schneerson's leadership or teachings. Some individuals within the Chabad felt that Schneerson's claims of being the Messiah were heretical. The term Nakar was often spelled, or Nakar was spelled Nakar, was used to describe these dissenters
who were seen as trying to uproot or undermine his authority.
Mm-hmm. His authority, as in the rabbi's authority. Yes. Well, that's true. They got that part right. I'm here to undermine the rabbi's authority. And therefore, I am speaking in collaboration with Yahowah, undermining the rabbi's authority. Nakar is one who knows and understands. He is a thoughtful individual who acknowledges the truth. He is a discerning and respectful individual. He is a foreigner who is observant and who is responsive. That is what Nakar means. And to suggest anything else would be wrong. But it's one of the things that's interesting. And Rich, I think you brought this up. No one has ever used heretofore Zeroah as a title, even though it's the single most important of all titles.
Yep.
If you're important to God, you're in the big three. The big three are all Zeroah.
Yep.
That no one is out there using Yada as the name of the person reintroducing Yahweh's name, even though it's prolific. No one is out there using Choter, even though it is a title. Clearly it says the Choter, and these are the things that are unique about the Choter. No one is out looking for who is this Choter who has the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And what is this sign that he has written, like these books? No one has tried to discern who is this voice of Yahweh at this time that are calling his people home, that are making this raised highway and removing all the obstacles from earth to heaven.
No one's making an attempt.
No one's looking for that.
No one's even looking.
No one's even looking for any of
Sorry.
these things. There is no one who knows that the title Bashar is the herald of Dove.
Nope.
But they all know. They know 2 things that they can't run away from. They all know there's a man from Edom.
Yeah, that
Because
they know.
Yahweh, through Yahshua, doesn't just make an introduction here. I mean, he says the man from Edom, he's dressed in red, he is dressed appropriately, he saves a great many. So they know that the man from Edom, who is not a Jew, who is a man from Edom,
they know
that he saves a great many, and they're all aware of it. They're just scared spitless of it, because it means that the savior of Yisrael is not a Jew. Holy mackerel, that's tough to swallow. But they know there's a man from Edom, correct?
Yep.
They just don't want to talk about it because he's not a Jew. He's
Even in rabbinic.
He's a Nakar. He's an observant foreigner. Now, the other thing is they know that this is a title. HaNakar. They know this is a title.
Yeah.
They know that Yahweh is speaking in the last days that there will be a Nakar. And they know what Nakar means, that
And
that's
they know,
an observant
and they
foreigner.
goddamn well know it's singular male.
So that he is a singular male. They know that this guy is coming.
Mm.
And they know that he is all over prophecy. They know that he was first mentioned at the commencement address for the home of Yahweh's name by Solomon himself. They know that. There's no getting around it. It's obvious. I didn't know it until I stumbled upon it. I was reading this and said, oh my God, this is profoundly important. Yahweh, after telling you don't follow the way of the Goyim, picked a Goy to reestablish his name, his son, and his people.
I'm sorry, but I'll disagree with the statement you said about the rabbis before. I don't think they do know it. And if they do know it, they're either hiding it very well, keeping it between themselves because they don't talk about
No,
it.
You just read an official position of the rabbis denouncing the Nakar, which means they know that the Nakar is somebody who is pronounced through the prophet Yahshua, the great prophet, and there's no denying him.
How dare you usurp their authority?
They're doing exactly what Yahweh said.
Yes.
Don't do.
Yes.
Don't make this claim.
Yes.
They're doing exactly what Yahweh said. Don't make this claim. Why? Because they're saying that he is rebellious. He is the one who is going to rebel against, and he says them.
Yep.
But this guy, Yahweh said, he's not only my son, which is the relationship I've always perceived with Yahweh. I don't have a relationship. I have two relationships, I should say. I have two relationships with Yahweh. One is as a very supportive boss. He's the boss. I'm the subordinate. We have a job to do. We do this job together. We have a good time in it, and we kid around a lot. But we know it's serious business, and we take care of business. I like taking care of business, and I think he likes the fact that I like to take care of business.
Oh, yeah.
We have
You're
that kind of
productive.
relationship.
He
But we have a
likes
father-son
productive.
relationship. I do not put Yahweh on a pedestal. I don't pray to him. I don't bow down to him. I don't worship him. I'm not fearful of him.
No.
We have a fun relationship.
It's very casual.
It's very
Yeah.
casual, yes. So
Approachable.
do not say to this son, the Nakar, this observant foreigner, who is joined with Yahweh. Yashanan, what that means, he's written in the 11th chapter, he's got the spirit of Yahweh in him, who is inseparable from Yahweh, who is collaborating with Yahweh. Something which would infer or suggest that I, Yahweh, Ani Yahweh, would under some circumstance dismiss or separate from, would even consider abandoning the relationship so as to be withdrawn from, being over the Nakar's family or near his home. It's badal, men, would ever be excluded or withdrawn from. Hiphil, infinitive, imperfect, third person, masculine, singular. Repeated word means take to the infinite degree. Don't think there's any possibility that I'm going to abandon my association with my son, my observant foreigner, which is what Nakri means. When it's first revealed at the home for Yahweh's name, he calls him Nakri, my observant foreigner. It ain't going to happen. This is my guy. And together we're going to make it happen. We are going to get that mortal remnant of Yisrael to pay attention. We're going to have the sacrifice of the Adam Upper, because that's my guy. I only allow my sons to serve as the sacrifice for the Moed Mikre. Dod is my firstborn son. He fulfilled Pesach. The Nakar is my other son, and he fulfills Towrah. Yep. Only my sons can make this sacrifice.
2 horns on one side of the altar, two on the other.
2 belong to the ram, which is Dod, and 2 belong to the bull, who is his herald, who is that bull who is so positive and strong regarding who he is and
There's only
what he
2
has
people
achieved.
that have stood up for Yahweh's name.
Oh, absolutely. So don't even suggest that I, Yahweh, would ever, under any circumstances, separate from, dismiss, or even consider abandoning the relationship so as to be withdrawn over his family and home. Al-Am-Hu. Al-Am-Hu, his family and home. And what that means is that you could come here with the Russian army and they couldn't get to the front door. Couldn't even get through the gates. You could come here with a fleet of B-2 bombers and a whole horde of bunker buster MOPs, and not a single one of them would touch this house.
Okay, lesson. Yeah,
Satan himself could come with 1 million Muslims.
Please don't.
And they wouldn't come near us.
No, I don't think so. Hell, even the hurricanes don't come here
But
anymore.
God said that I have offspring, which means I have a family, and that family is the covenant family. If you're part of this covenant family and are engaged,
you better know
with me,
these 2 men
you
standing
are,
in
you,
Yahweh's house,
you are
proclaiming
protected
his
too.
name.
Yeah, you are protected too. But don't even hint at it. What did the rebellious leprous hornets do? I said, because he's not proclaiming the message of Spirit Mom, lots of people are going to die. And the only way that we're going to keep them alive is to pry them away. And so that we can speak for Spirit Mom, we're going to save them because he married that evil woman. And because he married that evil woman, he's been lured away and God's abandoned him. And he's turning to us to speak of spirit mom.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm the whore of Babylon.
Yeah, well, I would say good luck with that, but luck's not going to help you at all.
No.
Don't even hint at it. This is the rabbi ploy. This is the Christian ploy. Because God knows.
It's the ploy of
God
all
knows
religion.
that when something is as clear as the Nakar is, as the man from Edom is, as the Choter is, when things are that clear of I am choosing this man and I am working with him in this way, that no one can refute that with evidence and reason. So what do? They all resort to ad hominem attacks and slander. And God's saying, don't do that. And let no unproductive or impotent individual, castrated representative of an emasculated group say this is wa al amar ha seris. Let not the neutered agent who is eviscerated and thus cut and cast off and unproductive profess. That's not a very flattering thing, but who is cut off? Well, Miriam was, which means the rebellious mother goddess hornet's nests are cut off. They are neutered in the sense they will bear no fruit. There is no productivity there. They're emasculated, they're castrated, they're impotent, they're unproductive. Versus the Adamah Parah,
who is very productive.
Parah means he's very productive. Zeroah. That is the one who sows the seeds and cultivates them for a productive harvest. So this is the antithesis of the Nakar.
It is exactly the same thing as when the earth swallowed up the Israelites that wanted to do something alternative with Aaron.
That's correct.
Yeah. Like it's the same deal. Kids.
This is then what comes next. And until you're on the end, I mean, to understand, to make this transition from writer to speaker, you got to be on the end.
Yeah,
be on the end. You got to be on this side. You got to know who the players are and how they're presented, and
the geography of the board.
Story puts together, where the pieces go, because you would never understand this otherwise. Look and perceive now that I'm a dried up and withered tree. So what God is saying here is that. So you don't think I can produce a Choter? So you don't think I can produce a Zeroah now? You don't think I'm capable of a productive harvest through this stem, through this branch? You don't think that's possible, huh? That I am no longer productive, that I am a dried up, withered tree. And so I can't prevail through the Shamak, the Dode, who is the main branch of the truth of the lives, through the Choter, who is the stem off the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, who is the productive one, the Parah, the Zeroah, cultivating the harvest. You don't think I can perform that way and have a productive Shabuah, Teruah harvest, or a successful sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, this bloody red man of the earth who is productive, so we can have a marriage ceremony on Kippurim and enter the garden as a mortal remnant that is fruitful and multiplies throughout eternity. You don't think I can do that? You don't think that I can replicate Eden again? I'm a dried up tree. I can't restore the earth. Is that what you're saying of me?
Yes, that is exactly what they're saying of you.
Well, of Yahowah.
And it's not just the breakaway cult. It's the cult of Judaism also.
That Yahowah
it's the cult
passed the torch to them.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have a name anymore.
Yeah.
So the Nakar, this observant foreigner, who was initially introduced to Yisrael by Solomon during his commencement speech at the dedication of the family home for Yahweh's name in year 3007, 7 years from year 3000, When is the Shabuah harvest from the great day of Yahowah? 7 years away, isn't it? And what is the means to prepare the mortal remnant of Yisrael? What day does that happen? On Teruah?
7.
And what day did this speech happen? On Teruah.
Well, it's all falling together,
Pay
kids.
attention to the details. And that speech was all about the arrival of the Nakri, who is the Nakar, who you need to listen to and act upon. Exactly the same terminology.
And what
And-
he's saying here, kids, is don't dare say that my guy
Yeah, my guy.
isn't who I say he is.
It goes right back to Deuteronomy 18. If I say this is my guy and I authorize him, you better listen to him. If I haven't authorized him, then you pay no attention to him. And is being acknowledged here for his indivisible, close association, inseparable association with Yahweh, his collaboration with Yahweh. And this announcement is being made in 700 BCE by Yahshua, whom Yahweh is speaking directly through. And he has now become the foremost benefactor of Yahweh's Berith covenant family, to the point he's a son. As such, the Nakar is considered God's beloved son, which is an endearing way to reintroduce the man Yahweh has chosen and equipped to call Yisrael and Yehudim home. Further, by referring to his Nakri, observant foreigner, as his Ben, son, our Father is acknowledging that the family he originally conceived with Goyim remains open to Gentiles. In this way, the Zebo Men Edom, the one coming out of Edom, is reuniting God's fractured family, just as Leah said, by healing the rift between Esau and Jacob, as well as between Abraham's descendants and God himself.
Can you hear that, kids?
The message here is twofold. First, the Nakar is La'el. That's an interesting combination of three letters. The Lamed is the very staff of God, guiding and leading the sheep, protecting the sheep. The Wah is the tent peg. It represents that which is in the middle of Yahweh's name that enlarges and secures the family home. And the Hey is a person reaching up, standing up, and acknowledging Yahweh. The Nakar is Lawa El Yahweh, connected to and associated with Yahweh. He is empowered by the 7 Ruach spirits of Yahweh and is identified with the very Ruach of Yahweh, forever accompanied by Yahweh, because they are now inseparable. Yahweh has infused the Nakar with his Ruach spirit. They are totally united, completely joined together by an inseparable bond, collaborators, co-workers. Throughout the whole of time, Yahweh Badal men will never, under any circumstance, abandon his relationship with him, because his al-am-hu, oversight of and closeness to his people and his family. God's Badal relationship with his Nakar is so vital to God's plans for restoration of his people that Yahweh is ever present, al-am-hu, over his family and beside his home. To attempt to come between the Nakar and Yahweh, to try to weasel oneself into the mix, as Miriam and Aaron wrongly attempted, is to be rebuffed by the Almighty. Don't do that. Now, the second aspect of this narrative is one that is also of prophetic importance. As we discovered in Bob Midbar Numbers 11, the 70 elders contributed nothing to the message Yahweh intended to convey. But they were exceedingly helpful and reducing the burden that Moshe endured, sharing his managerial responsibilities to the extent that he could focus on delivering the message of Yahweh, and they would take it from there. But with today's mother goddess cult of leprous hornets, well, they are as unproductive as they are impotent. Yahweh perceives them to be castrated, emasculated, cast-offs, and useless, just as he does the rabbis who wrote for
Chabad Lubavitch.
Yes.
Okay. Ugh.
Not heeding Yahweh's assessment and warning. They're of the opinion that the Shemak, the branch, and the Choter stem are no longer productive because Yahweh is unable to work through them. And to this, God says that those he has put forth, whether as Dod representing the tree of lives, or Yada as an extension of the tree of knowledge, or even Yada and Elia as the two olives beside his menorah firmly planted on the Temple Mount. His tree has neither dried up nor has it withered. This is meritorious as confirmation, because the returning Ben son is the Shemak branch, and the Nakar as the Choter is the stem off of that branch. It also reminds us that the olive trees representing the two witnesses will be productive. In the end, Yahweh's branches, Dod, Elia, and Yada, will bear fruit. It is a story brilliantly told. I have shared so many times that, well, I dearly love Dod's Psalms, and I'm moved to tears by some of the things that our King has written. And I'm sure that when he sings these songs, we will be joyful and celebrating with him. But personally, the prophet that is nearest and dearest to me is Yahowah. I just listened to how Yahweh spoke through him, and it resonates with the core of my being. And so every time that we have this opportunity to travel through the prophetic testimony of Yahowah, as he explains how to behave as a Choter, how to respond to this Nakar, I feel like we are living in his mind, that we are the very fruit of his words, the very essence of his prophecy, which is one of the reasons I'm so pleased that there is the great Isaiah scroll, that we can go back in time 2,300 years and see these words etched for our edification. So I thank you, Leah, for participating, Wookie, for the time that you spent, even keeping my feet warm here now underneath my desk. Rich, for captaining the cables and making this program possible. And for all of you who are listening, and even more to those of you who are contributing to project this voice so that it resonates with Goyim and Yehudim alike, and they come to appreciate the greatness of Yahweh's name and the great contribution of his beloved son, Dod. Good night.